7,000 people that we meet on a regular basis. We created something called EcoX, which stands for Ecosystem Connections. And we've been meeting together for the last 4 years on a weekly basis, maybe with less than 3 months because of the COVID-19. Everything was kind of a little bit went virtual. But beyond that, we assist a lot of the projects in the region with resources that they may need. So these resources may be technical. So if the resources are not available locally, you can go to countries like Ukraine, Russia, India, Estonia, Poland, etc., based on needs, or even places like as far away as Vietnam. We help them with financial resources to matchmaking between the project and potential investors, angel investors, VC investors, or more traditional capital. And then we help them also with the ecosystem, which goes beyond just networking connections, but also when you build today a solution, let's say you want to build an NFT, maybe you're focusing on the artist part, but maybe you need a marketplace, maybe you need PR, marketing, you need an event to showcase the solution that you have created. So we bring all these elements together.
Thank you, Jorge. David, a few words about yourself, what you do in general terms?
Sure. So prior to starting this firm, which is actually fairly new, I worked at Huobi, which is one of the largest exchanges in this space, leading their global strategy as well as all of their venture overseas investments. So I've been doing that for about 4 years before launching OP Crypto, which is the firm I run right now. And we really focus, we're based out of New York, we really focus on bringing some of the best projects from the Western markets and helping them go to market in Asia, helping them facilitate and work with some of the best exchanges, help them build a community, and ultimately help them get sort of the market traction that they need on the eastern side, as well as helping some of the best Asia projects get fundraising from the US and some institutional adoptions on both sides of the world, really trying to bridge the divide in the markets between the East and the West.
Right, thank you very much. Before we continue, is there any chance you can turn one of those speakers towards us? We have a very bad return here, and we don't hear very well the answers from each one of you. This happened in a panel before. Just one of those speakers, just turn it to us. That one there, on the left. Anton, about a few words about yourself and what you do in general.
Sure. So first, thanks everyone for joining. I know it's hard after lunch. And so I'm the CEO and founder of Lovtech. We're a market maker out of Switzerland. And what we offer are liquidity solutions for exchanges, token issuers, and also protocols. And likewise, we white label our market-making infrastructure for regulated entities like banks and broker-dealers. In addition to that, we also run a market-making fund, meaning we offer an investment product geared towards professional institutional investors that get exposure to our market-making strategies and to on-directional returns from the crypto world.
All right, Anton, thank you very much. So let's take it from macro to micro. That's perhaps the best way to start. From a macro standpoint, Jorge, what are the investment strategies you see for blockchain companies in this region?
Well, there's many aspects that blockchain companies have to take into account. First one, who is your target audience and what is the kind of approach that you want to go towards investment? So you can go after crowdfunding, where you launch a token and you need to reach the community that you have built or you need to build. A second approach is going the family office route. Family offices are not just in the region, but in Europe and the United States and other parts of the world. They tend to be much more conservative in their approach towards investment. So you need to show at least a minimal viable product or some tangible assets. Could be intellectual property, could be some level of tokenization of things like real estate, gold, or other assets. And then we have what we call institutional investors, which tend to be much large, and they'll bring you anywhere from 1 to 50 million or even up to 200 million or more. And those, again, have their own requirements in terms of compliance, in terms of jurisdiction. So if you are trying to reach to those types of investors, your project probably has to have some type of regulatory compliance in a given market. So if we look specifically here in the region, you have various options to address. You can go, for example, to Bahrain, which in the Central Bank of Bahrain, CBB, there's what's called the Regulatory Compliance Sandbox. They created about 3 years ago. Quite a few have graduated or at least passed through it. One example is Rain, which was showcasing yesterday. We have things like Beat Oasis, others, you know, they have necessarily not graduated, but there's about 20 of them. So regulatory is quite important. More specifically to Dubai, there is like DIFC, there is a DMCC, and there's ADGM in Abu Dhabi. And each one kind of moves at a different pace. You can say that probably DMCC is today the most aggressive in terms of recruiting. They have partnered with CVVC Labs from Switzerland to create a more accelerated model. I think they've graduated somewhere between 100 and 200 companies. And there is a wait list of about 900. So some of the people that have licenses are actually either in the audience or outside. They'll be happy to introduce you to some of these organizations. One of them is, for example, from Switzerland. But we're not here to do promotions for any of these organizations at this stage.
Yeah, David, from a macro standpoint, macro investment strategies in this region, how do you see that?
Yeah, so it's my third time in Dubai. We obviously have much more to learn, but I think with regards to like the UAE in general, it's a very fast-growing economy. It's very open to projects coming in here. We did invest in a project that's based out of Abu Dhabi. It's Connects Protocol, a layer 2 bridge for assets being placed on different sort of ecosystems. I think for us as early stage venture, we focus more on the entrepreneurs themselves. So people, it doesn't necessarily always have to be capturing the UAE market, but I think as more and more talent is coming into the space, as more people here learn more about crypto, we're happy to be supportive of the entrepreneurs coming out of here, but at the same time providing them the tools and the resources and connections to succeed, whether it's institutional capital from the US, whether it's like some of the exchanges that I've worked with in the past, and also obviously market makers as well. It's also a very vital part of the whole ecosystem, and can drive a lot of traction.
All right, so Anton, same thing for you. How do you see the macro possibilities or opportunities to invest in this part of the world?
Yeah, so just to mention and continue what the other gentlemen have mentioned in terms of the different strategies that we can invest is you have the long-only exposure where you can buy your top cryptocurrencies. Then you have the VC-style investments, both on the highly liquid side, which is equity, or liquid side where you have a token where you actually get exposure and liquidity within 3, 6, 9 months. Likewise, you have macro investments, which is the one that you touched upon. And finally, it's the quantitative investment strategies. Now, it's very interesting the way I described it now. The most dominant or the biggest allocation towards the strategy is actually the quantitative ones. The market making, the quant strategy, this is the biggest allocation. And it's estimated that more than 50% of investment vehicles or funds are actually on the quant side. And that's different from the traditional world where the quant strategies are actually a microscopic amount of the allocation. So this is on a macro level how we see it. And now when we talk to professional institutional investors, the way they see their exposure towards the crypto world industry is still within the domain of 0.5% to 2% of their overall portfolio. And that's if you think about it, that's in line how professional investors invest into gold or commodities. Most of their actual allocation is geared towards real estate, for instance, or bonds or equities. And still, they see that opportunity within the crypto space to improve their returns, but they still see it very risky, actually. And I think that's actually holistic across all jurisdictions and investors that we have seen, that they see a big opportunity within the crypto industry, but still very big risks, and we need to mitigate that.
Certainly, risk is a major factor. I'm an ex-banker myself that went into, I'm a ex-Swiss banker, we're both Swiss, went into the blockchain environment years ago, and in reality, our perception of risk as bankers is completely different than the perception of risk we have in this industry, the blockchain industry. Now, perception of risk is also linked to the whole legislation and the regulatory environment. So I'd just like to have a word from each one of you. We start from Anton this time on how do you compare the regulatory environment of the UAE today to other regulatory environments, for instance, our regulatory environment in Switzerland or from other countries, you or from Europe or other places. Can you start with you, Anton?
Sure.
What's your view of that?
Sure. So just first we have to say that our industry is a fast-growing, evolving industry. And there are a lot of changes that happen within literally year to year. And it's sometimes very difficult to adapt regulation and change law year to year. So the approach of the regulators is actually always to take this new innovative industry, give it space, but it evolves within the existing framework. So for instance, in UAE, if you want to run a regulated exchange, you basically get an MTF license, a multilateral trading facility license. That's a license from a traditional world. It's not a crypto license per se. Switzerland, to address on that, has been a bit more progressive. So this year in August, Switzerland has actually changed a complete law to enable the growth of our industry. So we can actually operate in an environment that's suited for the blockchain industry and for the innovations that you have within the blockchain industry. When we actually speak with the experts here in the UAE, but in general within the GCC region, I think that will happen the same way. So you will actually have experts and ruling entities literally changing whole existing laws to enable the growth of our industry. And then you have to be very smart and very quick, because if Switzerland is changing law, then UAE will change laws, then Singapore will change laws, and it's a competition who has the most welcoming environment, because the companies and the money and the capital and the smart people will go where it's the most friendly environment.
Certainly, I think we're moving into a situation where these different legislations will begin competing one each other for who is the most crypto-friendly or more blockchain-friendly, just to use the bigger word. David, what is your view on the regulatory environment, both here in the UAE and where you come from?
Yeah, so I'm from China, so you can just imagine how the regulatory things are there. I've spent the past 10 years there. But I think at the same time, anytime a regulatory body like China or other sort of countries that are a little bit more restrictive, it creates more opportunities for the friendlier jurisdictions nearby, right? I think ultimately UAE is a really good choice for a lot of my China counterparts that are coming to the country and really looking to start their business here in a more crypto-friendly environment. I think there's not necessarily, you don't always have to be the most friendly. I think it's always sort of a subjective matter where you have the right amount of flexibility, but at the same time, you're not stifling innovation, and you're very open to innovation that's happening in the space. And I think that's where the UAE is at right now. It puts it in a very good position to attract, talent from, a lot of the nearby countries that are a little bit more restrictive.
Jorge, you already touched a bit upon the regulatory, but I'd like you to go back, because you've been here for quite some time. You've been here for over 15 years or something
25.
like that. 25 years. So you have seen this country, the evolution, the movement, particularly in the blockchain and crypto environment. How do you see the regulatory situation here from your standpoint today?
Well, the regulatory has been quite progressive from, for example, Bahrain. In the UAE, the regulatory has moved a little bit slower, but in the last few months, there are some laws that have been passed in Abu Dhabi, and as a result, any organization which is trying to do crowdfunding or some kind of coins is going to go through a lot more scrutiny as they go. So capital raises will have to be much more careful, simply because there was too many scams. And when you have too many scams, what you ended up result is an overreaction. So we had, in the more recent conferences that are happening in the month of October, we actually have 50 different events in blockchain. And some of them have simply been removed from the stage or from the exhibiting area because they do not meet the criteria of the regulator. Now, there may be many aspects associated with that. One is because they're simply MLM and scams. Others could be because they don't meet some of the authorized approaches towards business. For example, if you deal in things like gaming, some types of gaming, especially casino or other, those types of activities are simply not allowed. So any kind of coins or capital raises associated with that will be eliminated. So, but I would say that the area has been very progressive. But I think what is really happening, and this is quite important, I think organizations in blockchain now have a lot more flexibility in how they go about it. They can follow the previous approach of crowdfunding, whether it happens to be through IDOs now or STOs, central secure token offerings, because these are more transparent. But specifically here in Dubai, we have things like, for example, NASDAQ Dubai, which allows a company to raise anywhere from 10 to 50 or $100 million using more traditional IPO. So you can create an hybrid approach. And the advantage of having this hybrid approach is that once your organization reaches a certain size of turnover, like 400 million, you will automatically be listed in NASDAQ or cross-listed. So this allows you to move from a market that is a little bit smaller to a market like the United States, which is much larger. So it allows companies to scale up in a completely different way. So I think hybrid approaches are probably going to be the ones that are going to be most successful in the future.
Yeah, well, it's super important. There are some controversial issues, and one was brought up here this morning in that environment. Welcome, Yael. Thank you for being here. That's right. So I gave the example on the fact that via my company, we're now starting to tokenize a lithium mine in South America. And that lithium mine is worth around $2 billion today. So we will be issued about 30% of the tokens from that on the first stage. That's going to be a sizable amount of money. And we've been asked directly if that can be put here in the banks in Dubai, and if they can receive custody of cryptos, and the banks can go crypto to fiat, fiat to crypto. I think that is what's missing here in order to make it super friendly. It's already very friendly, by the way, and legislation has moved a lot ahead. So I'd like to have your views, starting from Anton all the way to Yael, on your view of the banking system here in the UAE and what is needed in order to make it even better for crypto-related companies or blockchain-related companies.
Yeah, so when we spoke, our team spoke with a lot of players here in the UAE. We actually found out they have a lot of challenges how to actually move and deploy assets and capital within the crypto space. And again, our discussions are usually with the professional institutional investors who actually require security and trust, that they actually feel safe when they actually deploy, for instance, in a multi-million-dollar allocation within a project or a token or our investment. And I think there's a lot of struggles here, both from the existing traditional bank not understanding where's the opportunity and where are the risks and how to mitigate those risks, but also there is no native crypto banks here in the UAE. So there is no bank that actually built their whole core banking infrastructure as they actually only work with crypto. In Switzerland, we are very spoiled because we have two regulated native crypto banks called Signum and Seba. So it means actually their prime business focus is pure crypto. So they don't deal if you actually work with fiat or work with traditional finance. That's not their focus. So that's actually very beneficial to the industry, for instance, in Switzerland, because you can literally walk in with a company, you can build your team, your operations, and you know that you have support from a bank that understands your needs. And I think that the jurisdictions and the regulators that are very smart, that they will enable both the traditional banks to be able to offer crypto services, but also very important to have a native crypto bank, native crypto broker-dealer, native crypto market maker, native crypto fund. This is something very important. It will just, in my view,
yeah, I fully agree. That's a message really to the authorities here. Get a native crypto bank operating, and then things are going to move really much faster. I've been told that we only have a couple of minutes. Yael hasn't had the possibility to speak to us. So just a question to you directly, Yael. How do you see your investment strategies for yourself as a company in the GCC and in Dubai and the UAE in particular?
Hi, everybody. Sorry I'm late. Yael Tamar, co-CEO, co-founder of Solid Block. I think in every new ecosystem, blockchain is a new technology. The government has a lot of incentives, sandboxes, accelerators, and so on. So I think the best way for an international company coming into any new ecosystem, and specifically here, is to find a good home, right? So, and one of those is the Abu Dhabi sandbox for fintech companies, and the majority of crypto and blockchain businesses are, going to that category of fintech. So there are also some interesting things in DIFC and DMCC. So I would say explore the advantages that come with opening a local company. A second part is actually opening kind of a local representation, a subsidiary here. If you already have a global company and you come here to penetrate the local market, right, to get investment or to operate, then open a local company. That's the easiest way to operate. Also explore different jurisdictions. There's a lot of different opportunities, and regulation differs obviously between DIFC, DMCC, Abu Dhabi, everything. You really need to find the right place with the right type of licenses for your business, right? Every single one of them has a different set of rules. So, and a lot of them have grants, investment opportunities within the ecosystem. So that's a good way to find. And then in terms of venture investment, of course, venture capital is the same like anywhere else, but definitely, definitely I would say explore what the government has to offer.
Thank you, Yael. So we're about to close, so I'm going to have to ask you for one sentence, Jorge, how do you see the future of blockchain investment in the UAE? Go ahead, Jorge.
That's perfect.
That was a sentence.
It's a perfect storm.
All right, David.
What I mean by it's a perfect storm,
David.
It's a storm that brings together several ingredients, which is the technical capability and the resources that are required, the financial integration, regulatory, and of course the ecosystem.
Thanks, guys. Again, for us as an early stage venture capital firm, we're always looking for the most talented entrepreneurs, right? So it doesn't necessarily have to be sort of someone that's natively within the UAE, but also like someone that's looking to, do more in the space that's capturing the UAE market. So I think for us, it's very much founder focused, looking for the best entrepreneurs.
Anton, you one sentence?
Extremely bullish, but Switzerland is always conservative, so I'll say bullish but conservative,
Thank you very much to the panel. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for a great panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you.